Good morning and welcome to Spark the Change. This is exciting. This is actually Spark the Change podcast number 4. And I am welcoming, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but I will say the first name correctly because we had that conversation. Sarika, and it's Kharbanda.
Perfect.
Oh,
yeah.
Hallelujah. I think we had the conversation about the funny last names. I don't know if we did, but my maiden name always used to get mispronounced, so I'm used to it. But welcome. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
You're very welcome. We're welcoming Sarika all the way from Pune, India, which is very cool. And you just shared that it's 40.4 degrees outside?
Today, yes. Extremely hot.
See, now here in Southern Ontario, Mother Nature is having a little hissy fit. And it's like 10 degrees and peeing rain. She is not amused for some reason. So I just love, this has been an incredible few podcasts because I've had the opportunity to speak to somebody in Belgium, somebody in Washington, somebody just in London, Ontario, which is, an hour away from me. And now you all the way over in India. It's just amazing what technology can do. And that's going to lead us into our main topic for today. But I would love for you to introduce yourself and your background and what you do, because this woman has lived everywhere. So go. It's amazing. Her story is amazing.
Sure. Thanks, Elizabeth. Okay. Well, where do we start? So let's start by just introducing myself as a lean change agent from a very professional perspective, and I've been introducing change in IT, non-IT, small, big, large companies, departments across the globe, pretty much, which is where all the experience and I think the enrichment in experience comes from. So I've been working for quite a few years in Scandinavia, in the Czech Republic, across in Poland, Singapore, India, UK. So yes, pretty much across the globe.
And now you missed some there, Missy. You missed Bahrain and you missed Denmark.
Oh my God.
Sorry. So we're gonna have to get a little map and go, where's Sarika?
I know. It's like all over, right? So yeah.
I'm so jealous.
To have missed that.
Yeah. So tell us a little more.
Sure. It's been fun working with these diverse cultures. It's been fun working in these diverse cultural environments, and that brings a lot of experience to as a person and working with these cultures. I think it's tremendous to see how different cultures can be and how awesomely they can work together, especially me being in Denmark and working across with Norway, Finland, Sweden, and, Poland, everybody, and then getting India into the picture, all of them such different cultures.
So cool.
Much fun to work. Yeah. So I've pretty much been working as a lean change agent, driving change, helping others drive that change in their businesses, bringing out, business value, helping the business people do that, helping IT customers do that across the globe now. I, of course, transitioned pretty much starting from being a software engineer, then a tester, a project coordinator, project manager, name it, and I played the role, I guess, and then moved on to the new world of Agile, as we call it today, which I didn't really know many, many years ago. And it has a name today, right? So I moved into that world, and I think I've been there as a Scrum Master, worked as an Agile Practitioner, grew up to be an Agile Facilitator coach, inducing change, facilitating, and at the end of the day, bringing valuable change wherever possible,
Which is always
helping businesses. Exactly.
I'm just going to keep an eye on the time here because I didn't do that yesterday and we ended up going a little bit crazy. I'm just going to have a look here because you have a really lovely profile on the Scrum Alliance website. And I'm just going down here. I love this because you say my key strengths built over core values of integrity, intelligence, and energy, supplemented with my passion towards achieving excellence, has helped me to cultivate a huge portfolio of achievements, which is fabulous. I mean, the stuff that you've achieved already is incredible. And then you take that energy and that enthusiasm and you give it to companies so that they can make the changes needed, which is amazing. And you do it across borders, across cultures, across mindsets, across anything, which is fabulous.
And trust me, Elizabeth, it's not easy. So yeah, it feels awesome having worked across the globe, but the kind of energy that you have to bring to the table is amazing. And the kind of energy that I am able to generate with people, in return, I think that really drives your own energies. And it's super, super overwhelming sometimes, because it's also across time zones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, today, look at us. You're what, 8 a.m. or closer to 8:30 now, and I'm almost in the evening now, and it's 5:50 p.m. today. So yeah, it's amazing how we can do this cross borders, and I think the world's and that's what I keep sharing with all my distributed teams. I think this is the norm now. It's the inevitable norm. Yeah. Working from home, working remotely, it's just the norm, and we have to embrace that norm. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it was a trend, because I went from being an employee to working from home, and that I found very isolating, and just a huge change at first, because I didn't know about this kind of technology. I didn't know that I could have Zoom meetings and all that kind of, because I've never had to use it. Working in an office situation, and especially I was a medical office administrator for many years, and then we talked earlier that I worked with Girl Guides of Canada
right.
4.5 years. And it's interesting because where Sarika lives in Pune is where Sangam is, which is one of the Girl Guide of Canada, we're not Girl Guide of the world, world centers, which was a very odd discovery when we...
Yeah, and I knew the place where it is. I was like, I think I've seen it somewhere close by. I just didn't know it was pretty much here.
Isn't that odd?
Yes.
But that just, to me, that demonstrates there might be 7 billion people on the planet, and you look at it from space. Chris Hadfield shared all those huge photos and all that stuff. But we're just so much smaller now. Just the ability to connect through technology, and the ability to, since I discovered, Zoom, and since we discovered a few other tools, it's definitely facilitated a lot more conversations, which sort of definitely has reduced the isolation factor, which has been fabulous. And I get out a lot more, so which is good, because you tend to, when you work for yourself, sort of get stuck in your bubble and get stuck at home. And if you don't know about things like what we're gonna segue into is a discussion around a technology that came out a year or two ago, I think, called a Kubi. And so we're gonna jump into that for a second, but we're gonna go back because part of what we had talked about before was how you found out about Spark, which was a really interesting story as well. So would you be okay to share that too?
Oh, sure. So I would say Spark the change for me was very simple to find, because Jason Little, he's the lean change guru. Let's put it that way.
He's our bot.
Yeah.
Our head bot.
And totally. And he travels much more than I do. So yeah, he's pretty much all over the globe.
He's killing the planet one plane ride at a time. Let's be honest.
So when I took his workshop early this year, so I started to be a lean change agent facilitator, and that's how we connected, because I really had to do that workshop given all the experience that I had gained on lean change. Right. And I think he spoke about the Spark the Change workshop once, and then while I was following a couple of posts on LinkedIn, and I saw the first post come out. Oh, it's got you're allowed to attend this workshop via a Kubi. And I was like, oh my God, I can attend it sitting here in India without having to apply for a visa. And I can do that just over the Kubi. Fantastic. And of course, I am a trainer, as you know. I'm a collaboration superpowers facilitator and trainer, working with Lisette and the other facilitators, which I guess we'll talk about it in a bit again.
Yeah.
But the excitement of just seeing that, I could have the option of attending remotely just brightened me up, and I was like, okay, when can I attend? How can I do this? Let's get in touch. And yeah, I just said, and that's where we connected.
Which is awesome, because it was through, and we were just talking about, I met Lisette Sutherland at the Happy Melly event that we had in October, which was the first face-to-face opportunity for the Happy Melly community. And we're hoping to do another one. And it was through her excitement and the knowledge that she was sharing. Like, she brought all her technologies with her. I was like, oh, and I'm a tech geek on top of that. So how I didn't know about this is ridiculous. And so Jason and I got to talking, and I said, you know what do you think if we try and make this happen? And so we've been trying for the last 2 months to make it happen. And so we've had a development where, full disclosure, everybody, luckily, Sarika has a ton of experience with the Kubi. So she's going to be our, at this point anyway, our token Kubi attendant at Spark 2017, which is going to be awesome because that opens up a whole range of other possibilities. And then we're going to be moving forward, having a more substantial Kubi, what's the word I'm looking for? Attendance for 2018. So this is how we roll. We haven't even, launched or finished 2017. And we're like, okay, we can do that next year. So there we go. But one of the other cool things about your story wasn't it, you were in Singapore and you flew to London it was Andrea, the 3.0
Management 3.0 workshop. Yes.
It's just more that global connection thing. And then I think that was how you got connected to Jason. So from Pune to Singapore to London. I love it.
It's so interesting. So I think being on the Management 3.0,
circuit,
different communication channels, circuit, and that's the word I was really looking for. Yeah. And that allowed me to be connected to different people. And the moment I was like, okay, I have to take this workshop. Where can I find Jason? I'm like, he's on my circuit too. So, okay, let's get connected. But from Singapore, I actually flew back to India, and I had promised Andrea that I'm going to take this workshop. And I knew her from being, we met up in Singapore and we were trying to, work something out together there.
I just love how you casually, so we just met up in Singapore, just, la la
la. Yeah, it was on an Agile workshop, right? Because we are both Agile coaches.
It's totally amazing because I love it.
I think, and I think sometimes it's just that mental connect, the intellectual connect that you have with a person, and you want to go ahead and get something because we have really positive synergies to work through something together. So I thought that was quite awesome, and I told her, hey, you know what? Whenever you are conducting a workshop, tell me in advance. Of course, I will need a visa, but let's go ahead with it. And with that in place, so I flew to London, got my visa. So she helped me with all the formalities. I went and attended her workshop, fantastic. And back, and
never look back.
Nope, didn't see any opportunity to, or no reason to look back. No.
That's so cool. So now we're going to go into, it was through that you found Lizette.
True.
So talk about the Lizette experience, because you attended, it was fully virtual, the first workshop for Lizette you attended, right?
Yes. And so just for some context, so Lizette Sutherland, of course, so Happy Melly was the connection that you've got. So for me, it was, in addition to Happy Melly, I could also see Collaboration Superpowers because that's like her baby, right? Totally. Yeah. And I was like, oh God, this website has got so much to offer. And I was already talking to Andrea about Lisette and the experience she has. And because I think Andrea and Lisette know each other anyway, they've met. And again, I think Lisette was another participant from Andrea's workshop too. So it's a very small world, as we know. We all got pretty connected, and seriously. And I figured through that, hey, you know what, there's an upcoming workshop, and this is a fully virtual offering. And I said, you know what, I think it makes sense for me to try this fully virtual offering because I could see a lot of aspects in the workshop, which I probably thought I could learn from. So, of course, I do a lot of agile coaching for distributed teams. I do a lot of team agreements. There were similar aspects, but you can always learn more. And I'm someone who's always hungry for more knowledge, I mean, that's how you grow. If I close my doors to learning, I'm done, right?
Been to college 3 times.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Complete career changes each time.
Super. I mean, I think as human beings, we need to really tap onto our own potential
Absolutely.
and, open our minds to it. So I could understand that the workshop she was offering was designed, keeping in mind that, it was like a demonstration of the power that virtual collaboration really has to offer, provided you do it right. And I say in quotes, do it right. So I said, okay, that sounds interesting. What would I get? And then I looked at the packages of the workshop. So it's designed into 4 packages where you simulate the office, more the humanness than the office. So the co-located office that you and I work together in, how can I really simulate that online in a virtual environment? How do I build the trust? How do I build the reliability? I mean, It's an amazing thing. Today we see the closeness, when we are talking on Zoom. It doesn't feel like, you're in Canada and I'm sitting here across time zones.
Isn't that weird?
So it is, but now we don't think it is. So how does that transition happen? So we could do that over that, module. Talking of creating working team agreements, because everybody has different perceptions, everybody has different preferences. So how do we get people of different preferences to work together towards one common goal? I do that in my distributed teams. I do have working agreements, but she had more tools to offer in the workshop. I said, hey, let's learn it all. What else? And she's actually done a lot of podcasts, a lot of experience gathering from people who have been there, done that across the globe. So why do we want to go all over? Let's learn it from one single source. Exactly. Yeah. So learn it from one single source. And I had to take it, just with knowing that and I went through a lot of podcasts on the website and I was like, oh my God, there's so much that I can learn from this, right? Yeah. And then, through the second, so these are the 2 workshops, parts of the workshops. And then the third one is giving and receiving feedback online, which is already so difficult to give face to face. And then we're talking of giving and receiving feedback online, another awesome module to go through. And then how do you run a, online virtual meeting? Because originally we're all used to.
I think I have to sign up for that.
You are more than welcome. All of us will facilitate that.
I would love to do that.
I mean, we're so used to staring into a spider phone and, not being able to do so much. So I have some things I can show to you. So we even picked up these visual clues,
which I love.
You're frozen. I can't see you. So at least show up a visual clue. I see so many people
for that,
talking.
So if I'm talking to somebody and they're frozen, I'm like,
that's nice.
I just stay like that forever. And they're like, why isn't she moving? Oh, because who's going to actually, so yours is much better.
Yeah. And these are the super cards that we've made, so Lisette's come up with these and they're really cool. And so this is like, you're on mute, because a lot of times if I was muting myself and I keep talking and, you're trying to tell them, hey, you're on mute. Maybe even we are on mute, but you can't hear. Use a visual clue.
But that also cuts down on cross chatter as well. So if you have somebody, if you have 12 people and everybody's trying to cross manage each other's issues, because we had that with our speakers call on Friday. We had people from London, Colorado, Belgium, like all over and I think Jason was in Belgium as well. And so there was and not in a negative way, not criticizing at all, but there was a lot of cross management of, your audio's down, or, you're this. Those would be a lot better.
Awesome. And there's a whole bunch. And you can create your own if something's missing, right? Fine.
Yeah, no,
but I think, so a lot of my teams are now starting to, they want to create their own. And I'm like, okay, go ahead, create your own if you don't want to use this set. But at least people are now, seeing the value of how you can run this effectively. Yeah. And I personally saw a lot of that as value. I mean, value that I could take even as an agile coach into my distributed teams. It's awesome. And of course, there were 2 other key takeaways for me. There was a tool called Personify that I have never used, and Kubi that we will talk about, right? Yeah. So just a bit on Personify, I think, because that's a soft, it's of course got a video camera or a webcam kind of really small, tiny equipment.
Okay.
But
I just wrote it down.
It's really, sure. It allows you to embed yourself into the presentation in real time.
You mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And And that's so super cool, because then it allows me as a presenter to interact so seamlessly with the content, so naturally. So people see me not just here in the video, but they see me in the presentation. So even if, let's say, I was using another video tool and I'm not available on this, I think the amount of engagement that increases is fantastic. It's just fabulous. There's no questions to it. And I've done a couple sessions now, and that's the feedback that I've got from almost all the participants in the sessions. You know, the engagement, if I just remove myself and say, okay, let's just keep talking, they're like, no, can we have you back in the presentation, please?
It makes a huge difference. And we talked about that, or not yesterday, but the last time we went through a list of, so I'm just looking at my notes, sorry, of the benefits that end up happening when you're working remotely, but you add this face-to-face component. And I have clients that refuse to turn their video on, and I completely respect that. But the dynamic completely changes when you are talking to somebody and you can see their facial expression, and you know, it's interesting because hearing somebody laugh and seeing somebody laugh, two completely different things, right? You know, you can't hear somebody smile. You can't hear somebody frown. Other than, obviously, you know, it does change how their vocalizations come out, but seeing that makes a huge impact on your ability to be empathetic to the fact that if you're having a difficult conversation, for an example, and you're not aware of the facial expressions, you might not be as aware through their tone of voice of you're pushing them too far. Whereas if, you know, people can't control very subtle facial and body cues, you're not able. So if you see somebody sitting further and further back, or they're hunching, or they're whatever, if you're paying attention, you're like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to change my tack. I need to do something.
Yeah.
And without that visual, you can potentially damage a business relationship because you're just not aware.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, and that's totally correct, right? And what happens a lot of times when I'm doing a lot of no problem. You know, when I'm doing a lot of trainings, especially when you're trying to get people to understand working co-located versus working distributed, and what you need to look at for challenges, especially in communication or the time zones. And in the same room, if I'm teaching a co-located team how they're going to work with their teams, you know, if they get distributed, the first thing that I love to try with them is, okay, so you're two different teams on two different tables. How about you just face that side and you face that side? And the same exercise that we did now, let's do it just looking not at each other. Or I even get them to go in two different rooms and, you know, give a phone call, don't use video. And they're like, oh my God, no, we can't do this. I'm like, you see why it's so important? And I think they get it only when they feel that pain, because there's nothing that you can, you know, you can't really replace something like as good as face-to-face, but this is as close that you can get. And the body language, the visual clues, you know, everything, the posture, everything, it's a lot to communicate, right?
So that leads us into our chat, because we've only got about 5 minutes left. So if we can, you have one. Can you show it? Can you show
yes, I do. Sure. Give me 1 second. There it is. It's the Kubi.
So this is an incredible little piece of equipment that I first met through Lizette at Happy Melly. And the versatility of this thing is just phenomenal. And we're so excited because we've created a secondary program for people who attend on the Kubi. So, you know, Sarika and I were saying that she's now going to get, I think we're going to do some funky stuff now, whether it's just you and you know what you're doing with that thing, because we're not a very conventional bunch. So,
I figured.
There's a few things that we wouldn't have been able to include the Kubi group in, but I think you as a Kubi individual, we will be able to do some interesting things. And so I was so excited to talk to you because we really want to, like I say, we've decided not to offer it on a wider scale this year, but for 2018, we definitely want to have a much larger Kubi presence, because we recognize, you know, there's coaches like you who travel all over the world, and coaches like Jason who are all over the world. A lot of the people that are on the organizing team and our MCs and whatever travel globally to do what you do. And so you consequently meet and connect with all new kinds of people that, like you say, traveling from India, you have to go through the visa process and then, any other preparation from that. There's the expense of the flight and all of this, where we offer you the Kubi option. We were building, part of our plan was building online group chats, having private conversations with some of our speakers and a few other things so that the Kubi community could engage on another level, facilitated, but again, engage on another level, a room where there's a facilitator, a room where it's just you guys figuring out what you want to talk about.
Right.
We had a bunch of stuff. It wasn't for lack of trying. We have an equipment issue that we can't solve in time. So I'm really excited. So if you can talk about your experience with the Kubi, because when we talked about it before, you brought up so many amazing points about the value that this provides that I'd love to have you do it again.
Okay, sure. Okay, I actually like to start by saying, I think the first thing that I have seen, especially with the Kubi, when I've tried it out with a couple of my distributed teams, right? And there were one or two people who were not available that day, co-located in the room. And I had my Kubi along, so we actually got the person to connect over the Kubi. I could get only one person, but it was fantastic because the guy was sick, down with the flu. He could not travel to work, but he really wanted to be a part of the meeting. And we got him on the Kubi, and he was no longer being excluded. I think anyways, people were excited to see a machine like a robot in that. So he was really teleporting himself into the room. Vis-a-vis, what would have earlier happened is you're either just on a spider phone or something, and generally you forget the person who's there. Yeah. So I thought it was a live demonstration of someone being included because your face is showing up here, and if he saw somebody else talking or heard somebody else talking, he could just he has the controls. He can do anything from the Zoom controls that he has on his screen. He could turn around. So it's like a neck, right? So you've got the face of the person and you've got a neck. So I think he could pretty much do anything, look around. Oh, she's talking. Oh, let me just look at her. And he could, take a look. So she's, I started saying something. I started drawing a picture on the board as a coach. I was helping them out with something. So he turned around, looked into the board. Oh, okay. What would generally happen is if you don't have something like this, we would be, hey, you know what? We're drawing something on the board now. Exactly. Maybe you can see this.
Yeah.
But now I don't have to say that because you're like almost virtually, physically present right there. And that's awesome. You have access to the controls. You're controlling how your neck moves. Fantastic.
You actually brought up a really interesting point that we didn't touch on before, which was from a healthcare perspective. So many people force themselves to go into work because they're going to miss a meeting or a presentation or something. And they then bring whatever hacking heebie-jeebies they have, share it to the office because we are steeped in this culture of, if you miss it, that could be your career, this type of fear factor that goes on. That's a really interesting point. It's worthwhile from a company's perspective to invest in a couple of Kubis to protect the rest of the employees from, when it's flu season, when it's cold season, when it's whatever. Or if you have somebody, we have a speaker who has a chronic health situation. And if she didn't have something like that, actually, I don't know if she does. We'll have to talk to her about that. But if Dave Dame, who's one of our attendees, and he's been a speaker. I don't know if you've met Dave yet.
No.
So he has cerebral palsy and he's in a motorized wheelchair. And he is an absolute firecracker. And I bring him up a lot because he's just freaking hysterical. And he just breaks every barrier around a disability or whatever. Like he's so much fun. But for him, even for him 30 years ago, motorized wheelchairs didn't really, they weren't nearly as functional. So for somebody like him, the Kubi software and these remote things must be huge. We'll have to ask him. They must be huge in facilitating what he does. He's very, very mobile and he's out everywhere. But if you have somebody who's a C4 break, for an example, right? So they're a full quadriplegic, all this knowledge, all this stuff that they have But from a healthcare perspective, they're a big risk to be taking everywhere. This Kubi, like this invention, whoever was this Marcus's brainchild? I never even asked him.
I didn't ask either.
So Marcus, if this is your baby, very sorry that we oopsie, we'll find out. But it's this innovative technology, right? So from our perspective, Spark is a very innovative conference. We do things quite differently than most conferences do, which is why it's at the Royal Ontario Museum, which is why we do it at weird places and what have you. But the Kubi's ability to bring together thought leaders from across the globe, despite geographic barriers, despite any physical barriers. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I never considered it from a healthcare perspective, the value of remote technology.
And I think I learned about that also from the workshop itself from Lisette, because there are a lot of schools that are using this, especially in the United States, as I understand. Some museums that are using this. I think there's a museum in Lyon that's using it, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. I remember from one talk that I had with Marcus, or I heard a podcast of Marcus with Lisette, and I think that's where they shared that there's also a restaurant owner in Japan who's got 5 Kubis in 5 different restaurants. And, you know,
how come people, what? There's no taste-o-vision. Like, what is the...
But I think it's just fantastic. I think, well, I'll say initially for me to, you know, see it and even feel that technology itself was like it was easy. I'm a change agent, so I embraced it really quickly. But yeah. I was like, oh my God, I have to try this something new. This is so exciting. Let's see how it works. Let's look at the benefits, right? And the moment I show it to people, of course, there's a little, oh my God, it's a robot. No, I've just got my iPad and I've got this on a robot. That's it. And it's a stationary one, of course. You know, you can use others that are not stationary. They move. The only thing you can do is press buttons or do something else. Yeah. I think Lisette used one of the mobile ones. So yeah,
I was just at a meeting at Konica Minolta, and there was somebody virtually attending, and they were on a stand. And so when we went to leave, you know, he was coming out as well, and I was like, and then I was at a conference in Florida at the end of February, HIMSS, and one of our sponsors brought their remote robot with them. So he was making it go around, and I think people are embracing this kind of more and more, which is why we're so excited to, you know, offer it at least on a 1-person level this year, and then a multi-person level next year. We're also looking at an educational license. So if there are universities that want to have classes attend Spark, then, you know, we're looking at that. A corporate training, if a corporation wants to have a team attend, then we're looking how to facilitate that. There's just so many options that would allow organizations that our amazing team meet when they do this global hopping, who the expense of a team to come to the conference between plane tickets and hotel and, you know, per diem fee and all of that stuff versus the fee that we charge to attend through the Kubi and the support program that we have in place, so that it's a fun experience for the people on the Kubi. And I think you talked about the hesitation, and we do have to wrap up, but I wonder if that's one of the things that people don't think they're going to get a good experience. And maybe it's partly they've been in a situation where whoever has offered the Kubi hasn't made it a good experience for them, or they haven't realized how much control and power they have with the Kubi and engaging with the audience that's there, and, you know, between the cards and just using the controls and making an effort. Maybe it's a combo deal. That's why we're so lucky to have you, because we don't have to do any of that training. We can just say, here's some yay. Are there any final words that you'd like to wrap up with?
Yeah, why not? Okay. I think it's good just to, you know, maybe say, personally, I believe that, you know, I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. I think that's something that, you know, really sparks me. So yeah, I'd love for people to come to Spark the Change via Kubis at least next year. And yeah, also embrace Kubis and have fun with them too. But I think Spark the Change is going to be fun, and I'm really keen, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah.
Yeah, we're about 2.5 weeks away, which is really exciting. We're going to the ROM tomorrow for our volunteer orientation and team meeting. So it's June 12th and 13th in Toronto. You can visit 2017.sparkthechange.ca for more details. There are some tickets still available, although we are, I believe, 75% sold out. So we're going to have a really good crowd. There's going to be stuff you will expect, speakers and, all of that good stuff. We're giving away some free books, which is amazing. Paul Gibbons' book, and Alison Graham, who's another podcast interview that we've just done, is doing her book. There's just so much stuff. There's going to be some surprises that we're not revealing to anybody. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting pulled out and some stuff happening on me from the.
Oh, I think you're gonna be getting something in the mail shortly, actually. So keep an eye out. Dun,
okay.
Dun, dun.
Oh my God. Okay. Already excited. Cool.
Yeah, surprises in the mail for you, which is awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarika. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. This is our third. Yesterday we had a little quickie chitty chat, and then I sprung the video on Sarika, and she wasn't ready for it. So we rescheduled for today, but thank you for being so flexible and the time zone difference and all that great stuff. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on this. It's been a pleasure.
I would love to be your Kubi buddy that day. Unfortunately, I'm the crazy person running around at the event, so.
I can imagine.
Yeah, we've come up with a safe word. When Elizabeth's getting a little too crazy, they tell me to go and have a cup of tea.
Okay.
Oh, that's just okay. All right. So we will be introducing you to your Kubi buddy in the next week or two, and setting that up so that you'll have a dedicated person for the entire event that will move you around. And I might just kidnap you once in a while. I mean, that's highly likely.
Yeah, that's so cool, right? You just take the Kubi and, okay, Sarika's going with me.
Yeah, we're going to go on a little walk. Have you ever been to the Royal Ontario Museum?
Not at all. I'd love to have a walk there. Yes.
I think you and I will go walkies. We'll see. I have to get permission from the museum, but that would be fun. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. This was Spark the Change Toronto. That's happening at the beginning of June. Please check us out. And we're awesome. And we'll talk to you soon, Sarika. We'll see you in 2.5 weeks.
See you soon, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you.